For the last 4 or 5 years in the community, I've been giving presentations about data quality, and it is quite important. I'm really excited about AI, but I'm definitely on the side of it's all cool, but fix your data first, because in most of the organizations I've been able to look at the data quality, like, yeah, you're definitely not ready for it. I mean, use it, but let's now focus on using the analytical AI to analyze the data quality, improve it, get your processes in place to keep improving it, and then we have a look at generative AI.
Welcome to Salesforce Radio, your destination for insights, news, and community connections within the dynamic Salesforce ecosystem.
Welcome to the first episode of Salesforce Radio in the new year. Happy New Year's, everybody. I'm here with Andre van Kampen, and he's the organizer of Yeur Dreamin, the premier Amsterdam Salesforce user group and conference, and as well as the ISV forum, and is currently an independent consultant. Is that correct? You have your own consultancy?
Yeah, that's correct.
Wonderful. And most importantly, probably for this podcast, a Salesforce MVP. So always happy to share some time with a Salesforce MVP and get to hear a little bit about what's going on in the ecosystem. So welcome. Really a pleasure to kick off this year and this season of this podcast with you. So we're moving into our second year here. And thanks for joining, Andre.
Thank you for the invite.
So, I think we last spoke, it was right before the new year, and you were getting ready for the conference, and the conference this year is online. Is that correct?
Yes, it will be online, and if the stars align, we will actually have an afternoon in person. Yeah, not a large conference, but not a large conference, but it will be like a large user group.
And is this the first year, or you've been doing this for a couple of years now?
Our first conference was 2019.
2019. Wonderful. And I guess just to kick things off, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey into the Salesforce ecosystem, maybe a little bit about where you're from, where you came from professionally, and where things have taken you over the years.
Yeah, sure. So before my whole Salesforce journey, I worked in IT departments, working on the help desk, doing a bit of system administrator jobs, and did that for a while. Also, that's where my study that's what my study was about. And actually, for everyone who doesn't know, I'm based in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, and I'm an accidental Salesforce consultant. Like that seems to happen quite often.
Yeah, to many of us.
So in probably about 2013. So I joined a Salesforce implementation partner in Amsterdam, and I was their first employee. So nice little startup. And now fast forward 11 years, 12 years, and still in the Salesforce ecosystem, still Salesforce consultant, but of course with a lot more experience. And indeed, 2.5 years ago, after hopping, let's say some job hopping to all different SI and ISV partners, I started as a freelance consultant or self-employed consultant. And, best choice I've ever made.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. So when you joined as the first employee of that Salesforce implementation partner, what was the position that you intended to do there?
So I was I was a service consultant, which means mainly for Service Cloud. I knew back then, pretty sure there was only 3 clouds: Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, and maybe some type of marketing or portal. But I was a Service Cloud consultant because, of course, with help desk service experience before that made sense. And so in the first 2 years, I set up the service support and help desk department there within the company, and then from there just kept doing 7 certifications. So all still a lot of core platform, community cloud. So sticking to the core, but with a lot of experience, including data quality, user adoption, change management, those things.
And so when you were transitioning from being an IT professional to a Salesforce IT professional, let's call it, had you used Salesforce up until that point? Was Salesforce a system that was in place in any of those other organizations that you worked at?
No, I did see some of my colleagues use Salesforce, and these were salespeople in a company I worked at 4 or 5 years before that. And this was still the what I later realized, still the yellow layout. So like this is before Classic. But that's the only time I've actually heard of it. And with my last IT job, I was involved as the internal sort of tester or key user for a Dynamics and SharePoint implementation, which that project didn't go too well. And then when someone told me, like the owner of the my new employer, when they told me that, oh no, Salesforce can do so much better, and they did the whole Salesforce pitch, and halfway through, I'm like, sign me up. I'm ready to move.
And that's because you had already seen some of the pitfalls, let's call it, of that particular Dynamics implementation that you were a part of because you were the user.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And do you remember when, after he sold you on Salesforce, so to speak, and then you come into the organization, do you remember, was there an aha moment where you said, he was right, like this is much better than what they had been trying to implement in that, previous organization I was in?
Yeah, that probably was about, let's say, 2-3 months in, because of course the first few months was just a ton of training. Like, so the one of the two owners, he was really experienced, but he's also one of those, let's call them unicorn people, who could give strategic advice, train people, talk to people, but also a really good developer and architect. So he could do all those things. And he was trying to, his 10 years of experience, dump that on me in 3 months. So after that first shock, that's of course when I actually started getting involved in customer projects. And for me, the big wow moment was doing something that was so easy, changing a page layout. And that's what I realized. That was for my first real project so impactful. I was very excited, about workflow and all that kind of stuff. The customer really did not care. They're like, no, but now at least we can have the layout, done really quickly, easily, exactly the way we want, in the order we want it. And for me, that was that first aha moment.
It's funny that you say that, because in other episodes of the podcast and in conversations I've had over the years, from a technical perspective, people who came from systems that predate Salesforce, a lot of, for them, the thing that was really incredible was being able to change the page layouts from a very technical perspective. It sounds like for you, it was just very satisfying that you were able to do that for the customer, that you knew how to do it. But it's interesting that really, to my understanding, was one of the great early innovations of Salesforce, was the ability to go in and change a page layout without doing some sort of, crazy development project. What do you think about it was so gratifying for you?
I think it's a combination of how little effort it was from my side to do as a consultant, and seeing the impact it had on the customer and their process. Yeah, it just such a big difference. Whereas when you build a workflow or integration or something, there's usually quite a bit of work, or not so much the actual building, but everything before, during, after.
The testing it after and everything.
Yeah, and then the impact. Okay, impact's good, but the difference between how much you do, like the effort and the impact it has, was so much bigger with just the easy layout change.
So I assume that you've seen a huge growth in the customer base in the Netherlands with Salesforce. What were some of the customers that you saw early on? What were the verticals that they were in? Was there certain industries that Salesforce was focusing on selling into in your region? And did you take to any of those? Do you have a feeling? Did you like any industries more than others? Was there certain use cases that really caught your eye?
Yes. So there's for some reason, from the beginning, there's always been a lot of manufacturing and utilities companies that I worked with. And even to this day, one of the customers from, say, the early days of my Salesforce career, I'm still working with them, and they're also in manufacturing.
And they're still working with Salesforce, presumably.
Yes, Yeah,
Wow, that's
and
great.
they're still expanding that within the company in different business units. So that's of course really good to see, which also makes you think. Sometimes look back at the things you created 10 years ago, when of course the world was a different place, processes were different, Salesforce was different. This is definitely before Lightning too, before Trailhead. So interesting to see how that develops, how a company develops, and Salesforce, of course. But one of the well, two things that really got my interest and attention. One of them is the switch from Portal to Community Cloud, or it's now called Experience Cloud. Just how easy that was to or is to create and collaborate with anyone, customers and partners. And I think that's still a really good product, which also doesn't always require developers. So I can actually train my customers to maintain it themselves. And the other one, a bit less successful, that's the health cloud, and the healthcare and the health cloud focus. Because for quite a few years, Netherlands was a focus country of Salesforce. And within those years, there was also focus on I can say it. I lost the word.
Healthcare, life sciences.
Yes, healthcare and also health cloud. And I happen to work for an SI partner or implementation partner that also focused on the healthcare industry. And it just would not get off the ground with those products. And the funny thing is, most of the solutions we actually ended up implementing were like Marketing Cloud, lead generation, and customer portals.
Right.
So the same standard things we did for other customers in the manufacturing industry and utilities, we did pretty much the same concepts for healthcare. So for me, there was also one of those sort of reaffirming moments. Like every industry, every company is different, but from a consulting and technology side, it's all kind of the same. I know I'm probably going to get a lot of feedback on this, but that's kind of how I see it.
I absolutely understand. I think a lot of times what it is it's more about being able to speak the language of the customer and then translating that back into the same principles we understand from every single vertical that we're working with in Salesforce. And sometimes the earning the trust of the customer is just about being able to take those ideas from lead generation and Marketing Cloud and Experience Cloud and porting it over to the language that they know from their industry, where once it gets to Salesforce, it's going to maybe look very much the same. And we've seen Salesforce make this incredible effort to, brand the clouds and to, but really the core clouds are the core, and each other thing is kind of them toying with how to package things differently. And in most cases, obviously there's some, different ones. So that's really interesting what you mentioned there about Health Cloud. Is there a certain part of what you do as a consultant that you really enjoy? Like, where is it in the process that you're enjoying everything? Is it translating, the conversation that first conversation into, some ideas of where you're going to take things with the implementation? Is it the actual implementation itself? What's the part of being a partner and being a consultant that keeps you going with this line of work?
It's maybe three things. So I'll start with the one that doesn't really answer your question. What I now also enjoy is actually training other, let's say, junior consultants in the ecosystem or at the companies I work with or for. And sometimes that's also, let's say, an internal administrator at the end customer. So being able to still teach people, Salesforce related skills, knowledge, experience, other than what's already available on Trailhead. That's I think that's a really nice part of my job. But to actually answer your question, so when you have a look at an implementation project or an upgrade or addition to an existing environment, it's usually the let's say the part before the project starts, like helping the company or helping the stakeholders to actually set up the business case or the use case for the implementation or upgrade or a module. Because that's where I find with all the technical knowledge I have and experience, beforehand, when making the business case, you can already help them a lot. Guiding them in from the idea that, the big idea they have to something that, let's say, more realistic, but something that's a lot easier to replicate and also future proof. And then the actual implementation, nice, but that's not necessary where I get the still that happy satisfaction feeling from. But then when you start rolling out the solution or the module to most of the times all the users, all the stakeholders, and that could be not just end users, but also on strategic level and all the levels in between, to really see the impact there and get them to use it, and of course also work with product owners and change managers to really work on the user adoption side of things, and then pretty much work towards happy happy customers or happy users on all levels.
That's really interesting, and I think a lot of people, and I'm coming from more of a sales background. In sales, they say, of course, the discovery is the most important, and I think for a lot of great implementations, it's the same way. Really getting those user stories, understanding the background, and then being able to build off of that and to create a solid implementation plan and following through with it is something I think resonates with everybody in the field. And what do you think allows for a good implementation? Like, what are some of the best implementations you've seen? What is it required from you and from the customer? What are some of those magic ingredients?
Yes. So I think just like with any good marriage, a good project, there should be so much communication, like clear communication. And I know that's something, and everyone probably answers or has that in their answer, but it's so important. And of course also, let's say, management or sponsor buy-in, like having a proper buy-in from the right people. I think that's sometimes, let's say, almost underestimated, because you also see some projects where there's implementation that's kind of starting really small without too much management approval because it's under a certain budget limit. And then the goal is, or the hope is, that when there's a small product that works for one department, show how successful it is, and then start spreading it out to other departments. Could work. I've seen it work. I mean, with some companies, with the inner workings of the company, it works. But sometimes you bump into another department that has done the same, and then suddenly it's like, okay, we have to make a choice. It's going to be this solution, and that could be, if your solution is canned, then that could feel like a massive waste of time and effort.
Sure. Yeah, and I do hear that a lot of times. Hey, let's start like this, and then I'm gonna take it to make it work for us, and then we're gonna get it to work. I'm gonna sell it to this person and that person internally, and a lot of times things don't pan out exactly that way, and that's why it's great to have buy-in from more people at the start rather than less. And even though sometimes maybe it takes a little bit more time, a lot of times it's worth it to invest in that initial buy-in from multiple stakeholders rather than just starting in one space and taking that kind of holistic approach. I've seen to be really beneficial. Now, have you ever worked as an employee of a company that uses Salesforce? Or have you always did the implementation side?
Well, at You're Dreaming, we use Salesforce as well. So far, I've always worked, except for that very first company that I mentioned, like all the way in the beginning, but I didn't actually work with Salesforce myself. But I've always been on the implementation side. Yeah.
And have you ever thought about joining a role as as an architect or as an admin, as an internal user?
Yeah, several times. I mean, there's I've worked with some companies where the relationship was that good, and it kind of actually would have made sense for me to then change roles a bit and be employed by them and only have that one role. But in the end, it just never really happened. I probably always in the back of my mind knew that freelance work, like not having a direct manager, was more the way to go. Because I seem to leave a company after about 2 years, which is perfect for external consultant, because my
Right.
projects are less than 2 years.
Yeah, I absolutely hear that. And what I always find interesting is a lot of people will kind of start as that accidental admin and then go to consulting and oftentimes then come back to being, an employee for an organization that uses Salesforce, and will join a team. I think sometimes it's because it's for stability reasons. Sometimes, they get really interested in that org and they just want to kind of stick around there and see where it's going to go. Moving from, 2024 to 2025, what are you excited about right now in the ecosystem? Have you been able to get your hands on Agentforce? Have you been playing around with anything there? What's been going on for you?
So for the last 4 or 5 years, I've also been in the community. I've been giving presentations about data quality, and it is quite important. Good thing is now with AI and Agentforce, suddenly everyone wants to have like good quality data. I'm like, I've been talking about this for 5 years. The first 2-3 years, it was just me standing in front of an almost empty room, like maybe 10-15 people. Now when I go to speak at like Dreamin conferences, like You're Dreaming, 9 out of 10 times there's a full room and there's people waiting, lined up or standing. Line up outside or standing at the back of the room, and it's really full rooms, which is good to see. And there's more and more useful presentations and workshops coming out to really help with the data quality. And I'm really excited about AI, but I'm definitely on the side of it's all cool, but fix your data first, because in most of the organizations I've been able to look at the data quality, like, yeah, you're definitely not ready for it. I mean, you definitely could use it, but let's now focus on using let's say analytical AI to analyze the data quality, improve it, get your processes in place to keep improving it, and then we have a look at generative AI.
I absolutely hear that, and I think it's overlooked in some some of these kind of big pitches for using some of these new tools. What was it 4 or 5 years ago that made you really take an interest in that topic and start speaking about it to people?
It was my second time, 2019. My second time I went to Dreamforce. I was hosting a roundtable discussion, a Circles of Success table, and the topic was data quality, which is good because Salesforce then gives you this pretty much ready-made presentation with a ton of models and tips and tricks on how to improve your data quality. And that got me that interested in the topic that I started doing my own research and okay, now these models are really useful. And why isn't everyone talking about this like every day in every company? So that's when I started my let's say my own got my soapbox out and started shouting it everywhere I go.
So that's so interesting. So it really was initially kind of an idea that was almost planted in your head by Salesforce, and then you went with it. And have you seen changes? I mean, other than this introduction and now AI and any paramount importance of having good data quality in order to use these new tools, but have you seen changes in the ecosystem? Have you seen any progress in the way that people are treating the data, or is it same old, shit in, shit out kind of situation?
I mean, you will probably always have that, the shit in, shit out, but I think it's sort of the message is everywhere now. Well, it's a lot more, how do you say that? We seem to reach a lot more companies in the right positions, the right levels. So now when I go to say new customer or new company and I talk about a data steward, now half of the times, like 50% of the times, I already have someone or a data engineer or someone who does something with data other than just creating reports or data entry. And often they also then know what you're talking about, or they're like, well, just like AI, improving the processes and KPIs and maybe even management structures to allow or facilitate that the good data quality to then get ready for AI. So I see that more and more, whereas 3 years ago, that was just non-existent. I think, if you have a look, if you asked me this question 3 years ago, I probably would have named 2 companies that had that. The rest, nothing.
Yeah, I absolutely I understand that, and I think it's with a system like Salesforce, obviously data quality is always important, but it's interesting that people are now starting to realize it even more, because now they want to take things to the next place. They're like, oh, we should have listened to Andre back in 2015 when he started talking about this, or in 2020 when he started talking about this at the conference, and I heard him and I thought, oh, we should bring someone in, but we didn't want to spend time doing that, or spend money doing that. And now look, 5 years have gone by. We have even more data, and now what do we, where do we take it from?
I suppose one good thing is there's a lot more people talking about it, a lot more people with different solutions, different approaches that you can learn from, and there's also more tools and even companies dedicated to the tools or the advice, the advising part of this. Everything around data quality. So it's good to see that change as well.
For anyone listening to this that's thinking, hey, we should do more with our data quality, where would you tell them to go and look for resources to even just begin the conversation?
Well, watch the recordings of my presentations. No, but there's definitely quite a bit of information out there. I would say first start in Trailhead. Because Trailhead also has quite a few modules on data management, data quality, with some tips and tricks with, of course, the standard tools. And after that, I would also have a look on the App Exchange, because just to see how many apps are out there that do something with data quality, I think that should also show you, like, all these companies are dedicated. You're pretty much dedicated to do, to improve your data quality. Go to their websites, have a look at their, let's say, academies, knowledge bases, blogs, podcasts, and all that stuff. And I'm not just saying that because we're in this podcast. I'm also saying this in my own presentations. Those two are probably the 2 best spots to start with.
I appreciate that. And so tell us about being a Salesforce MVP. When did you become a Salesforce MVP?
So that was in 2021, 4 years ago. Time flies. So I was nominated. I think that was for the 2nd or 3rd time. And first time I actually got the title, and it has been renewed every year so far. Well, for a renewal again. And depending on when this is broadcasted, the nominations for new MVPs are still open this month.
Oh, I appreciate that. And what has it meant to you to be a Salesforce MVP?
So of course, the MVP title is a recognition, like, of the work you have done in the past, and that's great, of course, to get that recognition with everything I've done, and also interesting to then hear the stories of people who have nominated me. To then hear the impact I was able to have on quite a few different individuals. And in the beginning, I thought that was it. This is just motivation to keep going. But then that kind of opened a whole new world of let's say, opportunities to even do even more. And it really brought a lot more motivation to keep going. Like, for instance, with You're Dreamin, keep organizing that. Also the Amsterdam user group to keep organizing that, because I've also been doing that since 2016. But then also, help other Dreamin organizers. So people in other countries who started organizing the Dreamin conferences. They know how to find you, and then can you share your experiences? And before you know it, you're involved in, like, all these things, but also people contacting you individually and helping them, and sometimes with easy, well, not saying easy stuff, but again, not much effort, quite high impact, helping people get in touch with other people in my network, or helping them with updating their resume, those type of things. And sorry, last part of the answer is, around the time that I got the MVP title for the first time, that's also when I started doing a bit more public speaking at other conferences, user groups, sometimes even events that were not Salesforce related. So that opened that, which means the reach of what I'm sharing is a lot bigger. So it was a bit of it kind of kickstarted a whole new wave of opportunities and opportunities.
That's great. I love that, and I think it's nice to be recognized. It's also nice to use that recognition to, further pursue what you're doing and what you're looking to do. And I guess, just before we wrap up, looking into the next year, into the next couple of years, where do you expect to take your career in the ecosystem, and what do you expect to do?
So hopefully this year or next month even, I should be able to not just be a freelance consultant, but also make it a bit more professional, get a few colleagues on board, and really become the new implementation partner in the Netherlands. But that's one thing. Then the other thing is ISV forum. I think you mentioned it at the beginning. To really build that out. So we're in touch with quite a few ISV partners to get them on board. And if everything goes to plan, then around Reinforce we might have a really nice announcement to make.
That's very exciting. And do you have a name for your new the new consultancy?
Yeah, so the new consultancy is called Van Gogh, which is part of my last name, part of my partner's last name.
Wonderful.
We're both involved in that.
Next time you join us, maybe it'll be with your partner, and we'll get to hear about some of the exciting collaborations that you guys have done together.
Sounds like a plan. Yep.
Well, Andre, thank you so much for joining us on Salesforce Radio, and really excited to hear a lot more from you and from your future team. And for anyone interested, where can they find more information about Yeur Dreamin?
So the website, yourdreamin.eu. You type it out. Don't forget the G. There's no G at the end.
Right. It's a dreaming event, everybody. So don't forget that. So yourdreamin.eu. And thanks for joining us. Really appreciate you kicking off this season of Salesforce Radio, and looking forward to more conversations in the future.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Salesforce Radio. Don't forget to subscribe for more exciting discussions, expert tips, and exclusive interviews with industry leaders. Stay connected with Titan, plus the power of the planet's leading CRM. See you next time.